Ignorance is the key to everything because everything comes from ignorance. And when you look around the world, that is what we have overwhelmingly, virtually everywhere. What we will challenge, what we will accept, what we will respond to, what we will ignore, all comes from ignorance. And we call it education and learning about the world. No, it's learning about the world that in power wishes us to believe in. In America, they keep having to tell the people they're free every 5 minutes because they might otherwise suss that they're not. But you have to be every morning at 9 o'clock, otherwise you don't earn the money to survive another month. That's not true of everybody, but the vast majority of people every morning around the world get up out of bed, if they have one, and go to do something they'd really rather not do, but they got to pay the rent, so they got to do it. And this system we call life is designed to make sure as many people do not see. Because when there's a few controlling the many, you can't do it physically across the world. You have to program the perception of the people so that they see the world the way that suits you. They don't call it television programming for nothing. Television programming. Fear everything and then give us your power so we can save you from what we've manipulated you to fear. It's going on day after day after day across the great spectrum of society. It tells you what to wear, what to eat, what to think, what to love, what to fear, who to ridicule, who to condemn. The brain is not who we are. It is a processor of information and a communicator of information. Looking for consciousness in the brain is like looking inside a radio for the announcer. The radio is just decoding information. That's what the brain body is doing. We are conscious in a very narrow band we call conscious. That's what we perceive and think we're awake. But beyond that is the unconscious, the subconscious, which goes on and on into infinity. And the idea is to isolate the conscious from the greater self. What we are in this reality is simply a point of attention which the body focuses into a tiny range of frequencies we call the world. I'll get into that in a second. Consciousness is like the ocean. It's the same substance, but it is far more limited. Like ice is the same substance as water, but it's in a completely different and more limited state. When you look at the oceans, they say it's the South China Sea, they say it's the South Atlantic, the Indian Ocean, the North Atlantic. Same bloody water, same water. But what we do is we give our water, our infinite self, names, like Ethel Jones and Arthur Smith. And we give them identities without realizing that we are just points of attention within one infinite, eternal consciousness. If you don't become the ocean, you're seasick all your life. And so many people feel this sense of disconnection, this sense of longing that they can't put words to, because one part of them knows that we're all one. Everything is all one. If you wish to understand the universe, said Tesla, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. Exactly. Our point of attention holds us in this reality unless we're open to consciousness. Because what happens is if you come into this reality, this visible light reality, and you hold that connection to consciousness beyond this reality, you have everything you need. You have the information coming through the senses to give you a fix on what's happening around you, but you have the big picture that's outside of this reality, that's not programmed by its perceptions and its sense of limitation, which can then feed you insight, inspiration, intuition, to give you insight beyond that which you are directly experiencing. But most people are caught in the program, which they think is real and they think is all there is to see. When you put a disk in a computer, it's information. The computer is information. It decodes the information. One part of information is encoded to be decoded. One information source is encoded to decode. And that's exactly how our reality works, except the body is decoding and also encoding. We have a biological computer. Biological in the sense that instead of like a desktop computer, you put information in it, you press enter, and as programmed, it responds. A biological computer has the ability to assess information and make decisions about it, which is what the immune system is doing all the time, 24/7, without any input from us. Form is in formation. But we come into the realms of form, and form is created from information. If you look at the body, it's just like a computer in basic sense. When a computer don't work anymore, won't switch on, what do you say? My computer's dead. It goes into sleep mode to save energy. It has an antivirus system. That's our immune system. Best antivirus system ever. The brain is the central processing unit. And then you have DNA, which is basically the hard drive. And the senses are decoding systems, decoding information into a form that the brain can decode. The senses are taking waveform information, vibrational information, they're turning into electrical information, they are communicating it to the brain, which then decodes that into a sense of reality we call the world we live in. The world that we think we're living in exists there. And worth thinking on this. If you can manipulate the sense of reality of that and the way that decodes that information, you are dictating the experienced reality of the target population. And that's what's happening all the time. What the media's doing, and most of them don't even realize it, they're telling you what you're looking at. Keep people in ignorance. Create preoccupations and you lower defenses. Give out less cash and more credit and you trigger more self-indulgence and social engineering data. It's all a bloody mind game, and there are various techniques that are used all the time to push this agenda on by manipulating our perceptions. If you take the human organism into a technological level of control, the ability of that to access that becomes almost unimaginable. That's the idea. But the bottom line is, the difference between the world we live in and the world that we can live in is whether our society is conscious or unconscious, because unconsciousness is going to get us here, so consciousness must take us somewhere else. It's about becoming conscious. The question is, how do you become conscious? Well, you disconnect from the program and then you automatically are conscious. We need to take our perception back. People say, what are the solutions? Joy, love, peace, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion. That's the solution, because everything comes from that. All these things will transform the world, and there's so many people in this world who are already there. What we need to do in a holographic out expression of this changing consciousness will naturally come from the changing consciousness. Changing consciousness is what we need. It is just a choice. But people often don't make the choice. We accept the imposition of belief from other people, whether it's parents or academics. No. Blank sheet of paper. I decide, the I decides what goes on that paper. In other words, what I accept as my reality. I don't care how many letters you've got after your name. I don't care if you're freaking famous. I don't know who you are. I don't care if you're my mother and father who are trying to impose their belief system upon me. I am infinite awareness. I will decide what my belief is and how I perceive reality. And that breaks out of this program of responding to how others tell us we should be. When we choose not to fall into the program, then we start to make a positive difference in the world, because by disconnecting from the program, we are taking its power away, one by one by one. Can you remember who you were before the world told you what you should be? That's a starting point. Let's now, from this point, start to be who we are and not what the world is telling us we should be.